The previous screens showed how volunteers enter the volunteer management system and how, once in the system, they can track their own clearance progress and make changes to their profiles. The following screens will show the administration and back office management of VMS. Back office admin persons have their own login to VMS that serves a different purpose than that of the volunteer dashboard. On this screen, you can view new pending applications, recent applications within 30 days, and to the left is the navigation bar with all the functions that admin needs to manage and clear volunteers. An important feature of the admin's dashboard is accessed by the notification bell at the upper right-hand corner of the screen. It is with this function that admin personnel are notified of changes made by a volunteer when the volunteer adds activities and uploads documents from their personal dashboard. Any changes or additions made by volunteers to their profile show up here. If the volunteer uploads a document such as a TB screening report or a copy of a driver's license, the notification of that activity displays here. Admin personnel can then verify the information or the form and properly update the volunteer's record. Addition of new schools or activities, transfers from one school to another, and any deactivations by the volunteer all display on this screen for the admin to take appropriate action, if any. If the admin is looking for a single volunteer, the search box at the upper left of the screen can be used, or if the volunteer is a recent applicant, the name can be clicked on as shown at the right side of the screen. After searching for the volunteer or clicking on a name, the volunteer's profile page is displayed. This screen allows the admin to perform all management tasks regarding a specific volunteer. Some of the functions are: 1. Starting at the bottom of the page, you will see clearance requirements displayed and whether or not they have been satisfied. If they are green in color and have a date associated, they have been completed. If they are red in color, they have not yet been completed. 2. Near the top under the volunteer's name is the school and the type of volunteering. This person, Karen Smith, is applying to be a field trip driver and therefore has requirements regarding DMV, driver's license, and insurance, in addition to having a criminal clearance. If Karen was not applying to be a driver, driver's license and insurance information would not be required and would be grayed out. 3. Moving up from the bottom is the reference section. In this case, the volunteer is not required to provide references as noted by the 0 in the box to the right of number of references required. If references are required, there is an automated process for sending out reference questionnaires, and the reference response automatically uploaded to the volunteer's file. 4. Above the references are some important dates regarding this volunteer, and above that is a listing of outstanding requirements in red. When everything is done, instead of the list in red, the words "All requirements met" is displayed in green. 5. The next line up, to the left, is the Personal Information button where all the data input by the volunteer on the registration application is displayed and can be updated. 6. And just above is the Notes box. Admin persons can enter notes regarding their work with the volunteer. Also, emails sent to volunteers from admin and system-generated emails post a message to the Notes box. 7. The tabs and boxes above the Notes box allow the admin to change the status of the volunteer, add and/or deactivate projects to and from the volunteer's profile, switch to other projects or activities for which the volunteer may be engaged, and last but not least, to set a Next Follow-Up date. You will see in a later section that the follow-up date is useful in selecting specific volunteer records that need to be viewed or updated. Significant effort has gone into managing criminal clearances to assure that if volunteers are declined, that they are flagged throughout VMS as not being allowed to be on school campuses and connect with children. Clicking on the Criminal Clearance tab opens a transaction table regarding volunteers' criminal clearance status. If the report received from the clearing source used by your district is acceptable, then Accepted is selected in the result column. And if not acceptable, Declined is selected in the result column. Another option is that you may receive an arrest notification, but the volunteer may or may not be found guilty. In these cases, Unresolved is used in the result column. As you can see from this volunteer's record, there can be many different reports, and the result column can change from time to time. If the result is declined or unresolved, and you will note that the most recent entry for this volunteer is declined, the next screen will be a pop-up listing all of the volunteer's projects or activities. The admin has the choice of choosing some or all to be marked as rejected. A volunteer marked as rejected will show up throughout VMS as not being allowed to be on school campuses. And neither the volunteer nor admin will be allowed to add new projects, new activities, or reactivate old activities until, at some point, the criminal clearance result column is changed to accepted. Since flagging a volunteer as rejected is a very serious step, a list of projects or activities selected to be flagged is listed for confirmation and with the option to provide a note regarding the matter. Once closing the criminal clearance transaction table, you will note on the profile page at the top right that the status for this volunteer is reject. The criminal clearance checkbox is unchecked and the clearance and date text is changed to red. If driving clearance is required for the volunteer and you receive reports from the Department of Motor Vehicles, the results of that report can be entered in the Driver Reports table. Notice on this screen that the volunteer is cleared for driving. The text is green, the checkbox is checked, and the word accepted is displayed. Now you receive a report from the DMV of a driver's license suspension. When clicking on the Driving Reports box, you will note that a suspended transaction was entered in the result column. Next, the admin will view all the volunteer's projects and can set those projects that require driving to reject. As long as the most current result from the DMV report is suspended, unresolved, or declined, the volunteer's driver's license and insurance data cannot be updated. Also, no additional projects where driving is a requirement can be added to the volunteer's profile. Returning to the Admin Personnel dashboard, so far we have seen how a single individual volunteer's profile is viewed and updated. From the admin's dashboard, selecting Custom Reports allows the selection of many volunteers for the viewing of their status and clearance progress, and allows for email communication with the volunteers. At the left navigation bar, clicking on Custom Reports allows you to select the Volunteer Clearance Report. Near the bottom, you can do a manual search, or you can use the various checkboxes and date ranges to select groups of volunteers. For this report, under the Status section, those volunteers with the status of Applicant, Matched, and Referred are checked. The left-hand column allows you to check any of the display fields you want to view on the report. One of the date ranges that is very useful is the Next Follow-Up. With that date range, you can view just those volunteers who have a follow-up date set within the range. Also on the right, there are clearance requirements that can be set. We will look at that in the next screen. Once you have set all the criteria for the report, clicking on Generate Report provides you with this. At a glance, you will notice that volunteers that are already cleared for volunteering have their status displayed in the color green, and those not yet cleared are colored amber. Also, at a glance, you can see if any volunteers have expired dates that are tracked. On this screen, we see a volunteer with fingerprints expired and an expired insurance policy. The columns to the right are the display fields that were selected on the previous screen. For some volunteers, you see that a particular requirement is not required for a specific activity. It should be noted that True indicates that the task or requirement is complete and satisfied, and that False indicates that the task is not yet completed. By clicking on a specific volunteer, you are linked to the profile page of that volunteer that we spent time reviewing earlier in this demonstration. Clicking on the Change Criteria button at the top right will return to the Setup page where you can change your selections. For example, clicking on the Site tab, you can limit all the other selections to specific schools within the district. That being said, if you are logged in as a specific school site coordinator instead of a district admin person, you would only have access to the school for which you are authorized. In this case, Monroe High School is selected. Upon clicking on Generate Report, the selected options are displayed only for Monroe High School. One of the notable issues on this report is that volunteer Karen Smith is declined due to the criminal background report, and she also has been suspended by the DMV. Although Karen Smith may have been able to volunteer previously, current data lets the school coordinator know at a glance that she is no longer allowed on campus. Another filtered section is for specific volunteering types. Each school district can set up any volunteer types desired and can have any number of them. Some have one or two, others have many more. In this case, field trip driver is checkmarked. If Monroe High School was still checked, the report would display volunteer field trip drivers only for Monroe High School. For this report, we unchecked Monroe High School, so field trip drivers for multiple schools are displayed. Clicking again on the Change Criteria button will allow the display of further narrowing criteria. Here we show the selection of criminal report, being yes, indicating the report is satisfied, and TB screening being no, indicating the requirement is not yet completed. Clicking on Generate Report results in just 2 volunteers for whom the criminal clearance requirement is met and the TB screening has not been completed. A use for this situation is that you may wish to identify those who have been fingerprinted and received the criminal report and want to give them a nudge to get their TB screening. In this case, you click the check boxes at the left or the top checkbox to check all and click on the Send Email button on the top left. This will give you a screen for preparing and sending an email to those for whom you checked the boxes on the previous screen. The Notes box near the top allows you to prepare a note that will be posted in the Notes section on the volunteer's profile page. Now, you set the next follow-up date and then compose your email that may go to 1 or 2 volunteers or possibly to hundreds of volunteers. An attached document can also be sent. When the setup is done, click on Confirm and Send, and the email will go to each person selected, and you will have a follow-up date set regarding this nudge. Another useful report is Expiration Reports. Here we are showing that we want a report of all those whose auto insurance expires within a specific date range, and we only want this report for those volunteers who were cleared and matched with a volunteer activity. Upon clicking on Generate Report, one volunteer is displayed with an expired insurance policy. Here again, by checking the box at the left and then clicking on Send Email, as previously shown, an email can be prepared and sent to all those meeting the selection criteria. This process should be used if you wish to manually select volunteers with expiration dates. However, VMS has built into it an automatic back-end process that can be used. For various requirements that have expiration dates, such as fingerprinting, driver's license, auto insurance, and TB screening, VMS will send 30-day and 10-day reminder notices, and then if the renewal is not made, a cancellation notice on the date of cancellation. At that point, the volunteer's profile is flagged as expired for the specific volunteer type. All reports will now show expirations in red. In some instances where the volunteers are assigned to a youth for mentoring or tutoring, youth outcomes can be measured by clicking on Assignments, Matches, and then clicking on the student's name. You can view student grades, specified exams, and disciplinary actions over time as compared to the amount of volunteer time. You may want to pause this presentation for a minute to view these charts. All volunteers, whether they are assigned to a volunteer type such as classroom aide or to a specific student for tutoring, report the time volunteered and any comments they wish. The admin or school site coordinator can then view all the volunteer time reports, and clicking on the volunteers' names takes the coordinator to the specific comments made by the volunteers. This screen shows each session reported by the volunteer, the time of volunteering, and the comments made about the school activity or about the student. Prior to having the student processing module as part of the admin and back office, all data was organized around the volunteer, and it was clumsy getting data that originated with the student. With the student processing module, all processes begin with the student, and you can search and organize by student-associated data, such as the student's school, grade, and which volunteers are associated with the student. To get started with student processing, view the left side navigation of the admin or school site coordinator's dashboard and select Student Processing. The first function to be explored from the Student Processing module is the search for a specific student or a group of students. Martin Zelo is entered in the search box. If you also wanted to find additional students, you would click on the red plus on the right, and you will be prompted to enter as many student names as you wish. Clicking on the Advance arrow will take you to the results screen. The basic information about this student is that he attends East Side Middle School and is in the 5th grade. The volunteer associated with him is Mark Zillow, and Mark's email address is displayed. The school site coordinator may want to know how close Martin's volunteer is to being approved. Rolling over the icon in the same box as the volunteer's name will give an overview, or you can click on the volunteer's name to see his profile. We won't go over the details of the profile as we did previously in the back office demonstration. A quick look tells you that the only outstanding requirement for this volunteer to be a science tutor is to attend a required training class. It is the only unsatisfied requirement and is displayed in red. Returning to the student processing dashboard, several other options are available for viewing specific students and their associated volunteers. In the space labeled Students' Schools, you can look for students in all district schools or a select number of schools. In this case, 3 schools are selected. It might be that a list of students migrating from elementary to middle school and middle school to high school is desired. In this case, as shown, you might select 5th grade and 8th grade students. Also note that under Parents' Status, both applicant and matched are selected. Applicant, meaning not yet approved for volunteering, and matched, meaning approved for volunteering and assigned to specific school activities. It should be noted here that a school site coordinator would be limited to viewing only students and volunteers in their specific school, whereas a district admin can view students in all district schools. Clicking on the Advance arrow then displays the result of these search selections. Now each of the volunteers can be sent an email with instructions for logging into their own volunteer dashboard to move themselves and their volunteer activities from the current school where they are volunteering to the new school where the student will be attending. The assumption here is that the 5th grade students are changing from elementary to middle school, and 8th grade students are changing from middle school to high school. Volunteers are selected to receive such an email by checking the boxes to the left of the volunteer's name or checking the Select All button. Then, clicking on the email icon to the left will begin the emailing process. This is the standard email processing screen you have seen in other parts of the demonstration. Notice that the text is personalized by automatically placing the volunteer's name in the email and also the names of their associated children. After any edits to the text or other fields in the form, the emails are launched by clicking on Confirm and Send. After the emails are sent, you will see a pop-up where you can view the messages sent, the total number sent, and the number of any failed transmissions. There are many other functions available in the Student Processing module, and if you contact us, we will be happy to go into more detail. Thank you for taking the time to view this section of Be a Mentor's Volunteer Management System, or VMS. Be a Mentor, a nonprofit organization, is seeking partner relationships with school districts and other nonprofit organizations that are interested in increasing volunteerism with the highest degree of student safety and with great efficiency. School districts tend to increase volunteerism by 4-fold with the implementation of VMS. One specific school district expected 2,000 volunteers over the first school year and had 20,000 volunteers register. To contact us or to request additional information, please click on the link provided on this page. It is our pleasure to serve you.